Hi, Linda. How are you today?
Good,
Good. I'm
good.
glad to hear that. Did you have a good week?
Yeah, busy but good. Yeah,
Okay, good. I personally like being busy better than having nothing going on. I get
so do
like
I.
stir crazy.
Yeah, so do I. I'm the same way.
So,
Yeah.
how's your practice going this week?
It's going okay. I had a little less time for it because of
Sure.
so much else going on, but
Right. Yeah.
um I sang both songs some
Nice.
and
Good.
watched Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, nice. Awesome. I love that.
And only one time did the sightseeing. I didn't have time for it
Okay, that's all
otherwise.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Even if you do just a little bit each day, each week, I think that still is going to have that compound effect and you'll keep growing that area. So,
Okay.
wonderful. Good to hear that. All right. So even though you had a pretty full week, a full schedule, you still were able to get quite a bit done, which is awesome to hear. That's great. Um, okay, so I thought we might start with some dotted rhythms today as we're
Okay.
diving in, just to kind of have something a little bit different, a little bit trickier.
Okay.
Since we've worked on quite a lot of the more straightforward rhythms, I thought we could mix in a little bit more complex rhythms into
All
the
right.
the patterns as well today. All right,
Okay.
so that dotted rhythm, what it's going to be is whatever the value of that first one that you're looking at is. So the note, like if you have a quarter note, you're going to add half the value. So the dot says half of whatever that is, you're going to add to it. So, for instance, if I have a half note with a dot, the half note is 2 beats, and the dot's going to add 1 beat. So that would be 3 beats total. Whereas if I have a quarter note plus a dot, it's going to be the 1 beat plus a half of a beat. So if you don't know fractions, then dotted rhythms are real tough. But you should be just fine with it. All right, so I'm going to show you a few examples. So, like this one's kind of funny. They put cookies as an example, but you've got one whole cookie, right? Plus the dot is half of the cookie. And then
Uh-huh.
they added an eighth note, which is another half of the cookie, plus two whole cookies or two whole quarter notes, right? So you've got one, and then this would be the equivalent of three eighth notes, right? So 1.5 beats there. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 right? So you can see that all being put together. We have some trickier ones. They've got some examples. So, for instance, you've got the dotted eighth note. So, then half of that eighth note value would be the 16th, right? So, if
Uh-huh.
I had that, I'm going to have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and
Oh, okay, hang on.
we always break down the beats by the smallest segment. So in this one, the 16th note is our smallest
Okay.
segment.
So you got a dotted eighth note and then a 16th note to make
Yes.
two eighth notes, essentially. Okay.
Right. It's the same value, or it's actually the value of a whole quarter note as well. So, what we do because we have 16th notes is instead of 1 and 2 and, we break it down into fourths of that whole beat. So, the quarter note we break down into four. And that's where we get that 16th
Okay.
note. So I'm going to count then 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and.
All
And
right.
that dotted eighth is going to get three of those. So 1 E and right? So that pattern repeats. So if I look at the next one, these are pretty tricky. That's why I was like, let's do a little bit of exploring with these. So this is 6/8 time, which we have not done yet. So that means there are 6 beats per measure, and the 8th note gets the beat this time. So there are 6/8 notes per measure. It actually equates to about the same as 3/4. However, we feel the beats a little bit differently. We feel it more like the triplet feel, or like a 2, 3, 4 measures almost. So here we've got the dotted 8th, a 16th, and an 8th. So this whole chunk there is the equivalent of 3/8 notes. So we've got, instead of feeling it with that 1E and da, which we just had because now it's just 3/8 notes, we're going to feel it in more of a 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So you feel it more in 2, but it's like 2 broken up by 3 is how we usually feel 6/8 time. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. So it's So if I thought like 1 and 2 and 3, then I'd be breaking it down into the 16th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and like that, right? But usually that would be kind of slow to get the feel, because usually the important thing is feeling the strong 1 and the strong 2. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. We always want to feel those nice and strong. And then when we switch over to 3/4 time, we always want to feel the first beat of those 3 quarter note beats in the measure. We want to feel that nice and strong. So it's similar to what we just felt with 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. We always want to feel that first pulse really strong. So if we look at this 3/4 measure, we do have the 16ths. You see it's the same rhythm we had up in the 4/4 time. So we'll have a quarter, but our temptation is going to be to go fast because we start on the quarter. And we have to remember there are 16ths. So you're going to count that quarter with the 16th division from the beginning. So you're going to have 1E and 2E and 3E and 4. Yeah, if you had 4, you'd keep going. But we just have 3, so we would start that again. So breaking those down. So you see they can get pretty complex in there, right?
Yeah.
But we can break it down much more simply, like with the cookies that we were looking at before. But they can get very complex. This one is another that's a little bit easier to see there, the Happy Piano Professor one, this one in the red box. And I like that they wrote it out for you. So you can see you've got the quarter note, 1 beat, plus the dot, and then the 8th note. So this would be 1 and 2, and then this 8th comes on the and. And then when we look at this dotted 8th note, it's going to be 1E and da, right? And so that comes on the da. So these actually, depending on your time signature and the way it's laid out, could be actually heard exactly the same way. It's going to depend on the piece and what's going on there. If we look down at this one underneath it, we've got the dotted quarter plus the 8th, and they write it out so you can see all of the 8th notes there. So 1 and 2 and, but it's like you hold for the value of that 1 and 2, right? 1 and 2 and. So they show you the equivalent counts, right? So this is the equivalent of even the value of a half note, because you're going to have 4 8th notes there, right? So if I look down here, We've got 4/4 time. We've got that dotted quarter we were just looking at plus the eighth, and then 2 even quarters. So that would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then this one below doesn't have any dots, but it's still going to be a syncopated rhythm. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So rhythms can definitely get more and more tricky as we go, but that's all right. We will build our skills. So then here, I didn't go over a double dot. The double dot is less commonly seen, but it does exist. So you know how the first dot, it says half the value of that note before? The second dot says you add half the value of the dot. So you have the half note plus a quarter plus an eighth. So that's what that double dot would mean for the half note. A quarter with the double dot is going to be the quarter plus an eighth plus a 16th, right? Okay. So yeah, so they can get pretty tricky the further we go. What's nice about the handouts I gave you is that they sort of progress little by little by little. And I really like that when they progress gradually. And so it's not just like, oh, I have to, jump into the really, really hard ones right away. You can kind of ease in. So if we look here, these are going to be simpler than what we just were doing, but mastering them is going to help. So this first line is a lot more straightforward because it's 4/4 time. You've got the eighth note and 2/16, and that just carries across the whole line. So if I have to count that 16th, I'm going to do 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, make sure I subdivide by that 16th. So it's going to be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a for that measure. Now they flip-flop it around where they put the 2/16 and an eighth for the next exercise. So this one's going to be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So that would be subdividing again by that 16th note. All right, so this one's a little bit trickier because they do the 16th, the 8th, and then the 16th. So that little formation is going to be 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a, right? So we feel the stress on the offbeat, which is kind of funky. We're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And we make that offbeat more important, right? And we can see through this worksheet, it's going to get more and more complex as we go. So it gets a little bit trickier, and they added more rests and whatnot. So let's go ahead and skip these first ones because we've pretty much, conquered those kind of things. They're pretty straightforward. So let's go to here where we're going to have the quarter note. You've got an eighth rest, an eighth note, and then 2 quarters. So if we glance through, our smallest subdivision is going to be the eighth note. We also have some eighth rests thrown in. So here I'm going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because I'm just subdividing by the smallest value. All right, so at the start of this line, if we count, we've got 4/4 time, 4 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat. We're just doing that top line there. So we have 1 and 2, and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so then we're going to try this next one. So if we look through similar concepts here, we've got eighth notes, eighth rests, and quarter notes. So we're going to go through this line, but they'll be arranged differently in different patterns. So 1 and 2, and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so then if we look at this next one, we have similar ideas here, quarter notes. We've got eighth notes, eighth rests, but again, in different arrangements. So 1 and 2, and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we had a lot of striking on the off beats there, on the ands, rather than on the stronger beats. So that's good for us to practice, because sometimes you'll experience that in your songs. All right, let's go ahead and try this next one. Again, working on similar ideas there. So just kind of furthering that by doing different arrangements of the notes. All right, so we've got 1 and 2, and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. All right, so let's go ahead and do some sight singing today as well, so we can keep you moving forward. So I wanted to kind of touch base on those dotted rhythms, kind of get that in your head. And then we started doing some, trickier rhythms there with like the eighth notes, eighth rests, and having the accents on the offbeats and kind of syncopation feeling, introducing all of that. So we'll keep, adding to that, but let's do a little bit of sight singing as well. Alrighty, so let's see. I'm going to take us a little bit. Let's do, we've only done where we're starting on the do, I believe, so far. So let's do a little bit where you're going to be maybe starting on some other notes rather than just the do. Because so far I think we've always been starting on your do. So I'm going to give you something a little bit trickier there. Yeah, like starting on the mi or the so, since we haven't done that yet. Okay, so I'm going to share that with you. Okay, so if we're looking here, they actually wrote in do, re as help for you to kind of get your mind in the key. So if we're looking here, we've got starting on the mi, but we really want your mind to be sitting in more of this where we've got the do solidly in your head before we begin. That's really important to have the key. So something I always like to try to do is before I even start, just mentally get myself really grounded in the key that we're working in. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to give myself the C. And what I like to do is, especially if it's a really tricky one, I'm going to challenge myself to sing through the scale and arpeggio before I start. So I'm going to give myself the do. do. And then I'm going to sing through that scale and then the arpeggio of that key first. So I'm going to do a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So that gets me into that key, and then the arpeggio, do, mi, sol, mi, do. And that just helps me feel that key better. So then they recommend having you in your mind think do, re, mi before you start. Yeah. Now, what's kind of nice is they wrote it out in half notes for us and half for us. So it just kind of makes us feel like, oh, I can go a little slower. So we're going to think do, re, mi. And then we're starting on that mi, or the third. So let's do it on numbers first. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. We rest for 2. And then we have the 3, 4, 5. Rest for 2. 5, 4, 3. Rest for 2. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we have do, re, mi. All right, starting on that mi on the 3. Here we go. Mi, 3, 2, 1. Rest, rest. 3, 4, 5. Rest, rest. 5, 4, 3. Rest, rest. 3, 2, 1. And then we're done. Exactly. Good. I think we're done. Yes. Sorry, your video picture was covering the rest. I was like, I think it's a rest there. All right. So we're going to try that again on the solfege on mi. So we think do, re, mi. 1, 2. Here we go. Mi, re, do. Rest, rest. Mi, fa, sol. Rest, rest. So, fa, mi. Rest, rest. Mi, re, do. Rest, rest. What's kind of nice is we have a pattern, a motif, or a theme that kind of repeats throughout, which is pretty nice. A rhythmic pattern as well as a melodic pattern. And the melodic pattern goes down and then it goes up and then it goes down and then down again. But it's still the same theme. We just turn it upside down at one point and we take it higher at one point. So, yeah, so we've got that. We're seeing how composers think with having that motif or theme that comes back. All right, so we're going to start on that mi again. As you can see there, we're going to have do, re, mi. We're starting on the mi, but we're thinking, kind of counting up to it. So there's our 1. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 and find where we're starting. So we think 1, 2, 3. All right, so let's start there. 1, 2, here we go. 3, 4. Oh, I did it wrong. I was thinking of the other and my brain was doing too many things. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. Rest, rest. 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest, rest. All right, so now we're going to do on solfege. We're going to go do, re, mi. So we have 1, 2, think do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi. Rest, rest. Mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Rest, rest. So these next two are going to start on the so instead. So we're actually going to think all the way up to so. So we're going to go do, re, mi, fa, so before we start. So we're going to think all the way up the scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting up. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, rest, rest. 3, 2, 1, rest, rest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, rest, rest. All right, good. So on the solfege now, starting in the do, do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, rest, rest, mi, re, do, rest, rest, so, fa, mi, re, mi, re, do, rest, rest. All right, good. Let's take a look at this next one, number 9. So we're going to think again, starting on the C, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. Yes, so now on the solfege, starting on the do, re, mi, fa, sol. Yeah, here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, so, fa, mi, re, do, re, do. Nice, very good. All right, so I would love to hear what you've been doing with your songs this week. So could I maybe hear a little bit of both? So which one do you want to start with first? Do you want to start with our Easter song or with our Phantom song?
We can start with the Easter one, but
Sure, yeah.
I couldn't find the sheet. I think you had sent me a link to the sheet music for the other, and I couldn't find it, so I'll need that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let me all right, for Think of Me for the Phantom of the Opera one.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to just email it over to you right now. And
Okay.
that way,
Yeah,
if during the week you don't find it, like
that,
in your computer or whatnot, then you'll have it on there. All right.
yeah.
So I'm going to send that right now. Think of Me sheet music. Yeah, because I think I had sent it through Zoom last time, so maybe it just like didn't get saved after. So let me just have one moment, and we'll make sure you've got that for this week, because that definitely makes things a little bit easier. Okay, so I've got it saved in here. Here it is. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I just sent it over there. So it should come through shortly. Alrighty, so then let's go ahead and let's try our Easter one first. So I know you've been practicing with the track, so why don't we start there?
Yeah, great. I'll pull up the track. Track.
Yeah, especially if you'll be possibly singing with the track, then I think it's good to be practicing with it. Yeah.
Yeah. see. It's like we have to go back to the beginning here. Yeah. Yeah. Was it a morning like this when the sun still hid from Jerusalem and Mary rose from her bed to tend the Lord she thought was dead? Was it a morning like this when Mary walked down from Jerusalem? And two angels stood at the tomb, bearers of news she would hear soon. Did the grass sing? Did the earth rejoice to feel you again? Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound? He is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Was it a morning like this when Peter and John ran from Jerusalem? And as they raced for the tomb, beneath their feet was there a tomb? Did the grass sing? Did the earth rejoice to feel you again? Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound? He is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound? He is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Was it a morning like this when my Lord looked down on Jerusalem? He is risen. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Beautiful. Lovely. Really nice work. I definitely hear the progress you've been making. This song, it just sounds like you know it so much better. It's sitting in your voice better. That last final note was really lovely, just ringing out and the resonant space. That definitely feels a lot more secure, I think, at this point. So, what are the things that you're liking about it? What was feeling good about it? So, just kind of thinking through the different things that we think about with singing, like how is your breath feeling? How is the diction feeling? How are the things like the crescendos, the diminuendos, the dynamic levels throughout, the accents, kind of, where we want to emphasize and stress at moments. How are those different things feeling, and what's feeling really solid and good at this point, and what's feeling like it could still use a little bit more work?
Yeah, I would say most things feel pretty solid and good. That wasn't
Yeah.
what I just saying, I don't think was the best I've done, but
And
just
that's okay because we were just working
yeah.
through exercises before,
Yeah.
so it's that first time like really singing full out. So it might just be kind of a matter of warming up into it a little bit. Because I definitely feel like at the start to the end, I could hear a difference, that you kind of
Yeah.
warmed up into it for
Yeah.
sure. And that's okay. There still can be things that are, that you feel like you did a good job with. So what were the things that you have been noticing that you're like, okay, this is feeling really solid? And then what are maybe the things that you think, I feel like this could be improved a little bit?
I think most things feel solid. I'm really most of the time I'm really looking for you on any
Yeah,
feedback
absolutely.
on it.
Yeah, so one thing that I'm thinking is your voice loves when you get to go to those really high notes and like ring out. But I would love to hear a little bit more in the lower sections where it's a little more declamatory, more speech like, embracing that a little bit more. So it's a little more almost like the musical theater kind of quality, like you're saying it to them. Was it a morning like this? Right? Was it a
Uh,
morning like this? Where it's a little
uh,
more speech like
okay.
infused into there. Because it's beautiful when we go like, was it a morning like this? Da 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 da. Right? But it's going to be a lot more like active and motivational, and we're going to get more of the story when we think, was it a morning like this, everyone? When the and so thinking of like, instead of just like, I feel like there are moments when obviously we want to ring out, like, he is risen. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That's going to ring out, and it's going to be just that beautiful, he's risen. There I want it to ring out more. But I think in those lower sections where it's more the storytelling, more of that, was it a morning like this? And a little more diction, a little more of that, talking to them enthusiastically, like a Shakespeare in the Park kind of energy through those sections.
Okay.
And then when you go to those upper high notes, just really think of letting them kind of blossom. And I think, even the he is risen, like you could start the line, he is you could start it more of that speech like quality and then let it ring out and, have the resonance and spin on the longer held
Okay.
notes. And you could even like add a bit of a crescendo through those. I think that'd
Okay.
be really nice. So let's have you just try just speaking some of the lines and just feel how you talk them, and then we're going to incorporate some of that quality. It's a little bit lower in the pitch, and it's a lot more dialogue and text coming quickly through there. So singing that section, that first opening verse section a little bit differently.
Uh-huh. So you want me to just speak it right now?
Yes.
All right. I'm trying to see if I can find the music. I can't even find it. I know it in my head. So, okay. So was it a morning like this? That you want that? What you want me to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Was it a
Mm-hmm.
morning like this when the sun still hid from Jerusalem? Um, and Mary rose from her bed. Uh, let's see.
It's tricky, isn't it? It's like, oh, it feels different when
Do
you do
angels
it like
stood at the
lines in a
tomb?
play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
angels stood at the tomb? Bearers of news she would hear soon.
Exactly. Yeah. So then if you think of like, instead of like, bearers of news she would hear soon, think more of that. Bearers of news she would hear soon. Bearers of news she would hear soon. Right? So a little more of that speech like quality in there. Yeah. So let's go ahead and try it again.
All right.
Let's sing with the track. And I want you to try feeling that more, declamations, and it's like you're projecting and connecting with everyone, but you're telling that story and you're posing these questions to them, so it's going to flow a little bit differently.
There we go. Was it a morning like this when the sun still hid from Jerusalem, and Mary rose from her bed to tend the Lord she thought was dead. Was it a morning like this when Mary walked out from Jerusalem, and two angels stood at the tomb, bearers of news she would hear soon? Did the grass sing? Did the earth rejoice to feel you again? Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound, he is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Was it a morning like this when Peter and John walked from Jerusalem, and as they raced for the tomb, beneath their feet was there a tomb? Did the grass sing? Did the earth rejoice to feel you again? Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound, he is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Over and over like a trumpet underground, did the earth seem to pound, he is risen. Over and over in a never-ending round, he is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. Was it a morning like this when my Lord looked out on Jerusalem? He is risen. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Nice. Very good. All right. So I definitely heard more diction there, more of the inflection you'd have with more of that conversational tone. I did notice when you first started, it would occasionally go a little bit flat, which I think was just the palate dropping a little bit.
Okay.
Because when you're talking, probably it's not lifted. So that's going to be something to practice, but it got better as you went through. So I think it was just you were figuring out the coordination and what that's going to feel like. So keep that in mind, though, as you're practicing, that you want to keep that lifted, because it was dropping and then it would kind of like go a little bit flat for a moment and then you'd get it back up. So just, I think it was just a matter of figuring out the coordination. So that's just something to practice with that. And then I think, too, in those more speech-like moments, probably less vibrato, more minimal vibrato through there. And then when you get to, like, the chorus, the over and over, that's when you can add in a little bit more. And then especially anytime you have even things like, was it a morning like this on this? You could let it kind of add a little more vibrato, but on those faster parts, like, was it a morning like this? Then you could on this add some more vibrato, but have it be a little more straight tone through the faster moving parts of the verses. And then add in a little more vibrato whenever you have those long held notes. And then through the chorus, really let it ring out, have that resonance and add more vibrato there. And I think that it's going to be... It is actually kind of like similar to musical theater styles throughout there. It's kind of like the like Broadway revival kind of vibe. is what we're going for. So it's actually going to be pretty similar to the stylistic elements that you'll have with Think of Me.
Okay.
So yeah, so pretty similar to that. So you can incorporate some of those same ideas into Think of Me as you're practicing it. And then with this one, like I said before, it's like it did get better as you were singing. It's like you kind of like figured out that coordination as you're going. So I feel like you'll have no problem doing it. And then I want you to play a little bit more with the crescendos and diminuendos, like he is risen, right? So like thinking a little bit more, like the dynamics changing and
Okay.
having more shape to them, like he's risen. You hear how I let it kind of grow through there. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Like, we don't want it to just be loud all the time through the chorus. We want it to feel like it's growing, and it has peaks, and it has moments that are a little more tender and kind of taper off. Like I feel like where do you sense it being like a peak moment in the chorus? Like the peak of the chorus, the highest, like biggest moment there.
All right. So it's like, so there's like three of the chorus per se's,
Yeah.
and probably the third one. And I would, I'm thinking like on the last Alleluia. Um,
Yeah. The very final moment of the song. Um,
no,
and
actually,
then when we think about, we've got multiple Alleluias in a row, right? So we don't want them to all sound exactly the same. Like Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. We don't want them to all be the same. We want it
uh-huh.
to feel like it's growing and it's going somewhere. So maybe I do like mezzo forte, forte, and then fortissimo on that final one, something like that. I
Uh-huh.
feel like earlier, like maybe on that first chorus, you could do like, he is risen could be your big moment. And then like you could do like forte there, and then you could do the first Alleluia could be like mezzo forte, and then you could be more tender on the second Alleluia going into the second verse, right? So thinking
Okay.
of ways that you can shape the phrases a bit more and play with the dynamics and play with those crescendos and diminuendos. So maybe kind of go through and chart out for yourself, what volume do I think I'd be here based on like the emotional context of what's happening there? Is it a more soft emotional moment? Is it a more like intense, big, bold emotional moment? And then maybe write for yourself like piano, mezzo forte, forte, and tell yourself kind of like the general shape, and maybe write in where you think a diminuendo or a crescendo would be great, and write those in for yourself so that you can think about where you want to place them. You could even play with things like the chorus repeats multiple times, right? Sometimes I'll move where I take a breath for the dramatic effect. So just play with those kind of thoughts of how can I shape the song, and how can I help it to keep that momentum and like energy and growing and moving and like going
Okay.
somewhere all the time. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. All right. So you've got some really good things to be working on this week.
Okay.
Next time, let's be sure to work on Think of Me, because I want to work on that cadenza with you. It's going to be beautiful in your voice. So I'm really excited
Talk
to
about
take a
the
look at that.
final thing that she does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's
that
going to be
speaks to
great.
me.
And you've got the sheet music for that now, so that'll make practicing it a lot easier. So
All
we'll
right.
dive back into that one next time, okay?
Great. Sounds good.
Nice work today, Linda.
Thank
Keep up the great work, and I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.